Okay, good morning, everybody. Good to see you. Yeah. Okay, today we're going to go over Unit 3, Listening 1. And uh, before we do that, I'd like to give you a very short video on personality, as in introverts versus extroverts, since we're talking about that topic in this unit, right? We're talking personality. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully it goes smooth enough.
Weekend with a book in hand, while others prefer a night out being the center of attention. But from a scientific perspective, is there an advantage to being an introvert or an extrovert? Which is better? The idea of two polar personalities was first described by Swiss German psychologist Carl Jung, who coined the terms introversion and extroversion. Jung's theory was further elaborated upon by Hans Eysenck, a German psychologist who defined introverts and extroverts by their baseline arousal. Extroverts, with their lower level of arousal, would need to do more exciting things that would physically and mentally exhaust an introvert in order to reach satisfaction. So, while an introvert might be content with a leisurely bike ride through a quiet park, an extrovert might need to hit the dirt roads in order to feel mentally satisfied. Brain scans show a thicker prefrontal cortex in introverts compared to extroverts, which is associated with deeper thought and planning, suggesting that extroverts may be more impulsive than introverts who prefer to mull things over instead of directly springing into action. But because of this tendency to ruminate in introverts, they're also more susceptible to developing anxiety and depression. Extroverts also respond more strongly to rewards, with brain scans showing a significantly more activated dopamine reward system than introverts when completing and winning a computerized gambling task. And given that we're social animals, dopamine is also released when interacting with other humans. This was especially important as hunter gatherers who relied upon others for both food and protection from predators. However, human connection has a greater impact on extroverts than introverts. In fact, it's been shown that the brains of extroverts respond more strongly when shown photos of human faces compared to neutral photos of nature. But for introverts, the brain response is similar between the two. Now, that's not to say that introverts don't feel any excitement from winning or that they strongly dislike being around people, but they simply don't feel as excited and don't require as much social interaction in order to feel good. In terms of genetics, there may be an evolutionary advantage to each trait. For instance, introverts might have stuck to the sidelines to avoid predators, while extroverts would roam and explore, giving them an advantage when food is scarce. A study involving 130 participants discovered that those who were more inclined to be adventurous had two copies of one particular allele, reinforcing the idea that these personality traits are partially linked to genetics. In many ways, our society has an extroversion bias where qualities like putting yourself out there are highly valued. Our institutions are also often designed with the extrovert in mind, where group work is a popular practice in most schools and workplaces, with the idea that creativity comes from a sociable place. However, as social animals, we instinctively mimic others' opinions without realizing it, suggesting that your brainstorming sessions with others may not always be productive. When we disagree with a group, neuroscientists have shown high activation in the amygdala, a part of the brain associated with the sting of rejection. When we think of introverts, shyness and the preference to be alone often come to mind, but in reality, introverts may simply prefer close conversations with one or a few people instead of dozens. Furthermore, introverts may even be better public speakers, as they're known to think through ideas thoroughly compared to extroverts who may choose to make rash decisions instead. But perhaps you are an ambivert, right in the middle of the introvert extrovert Venn diagram, combining the best of both worlds. A recent study involving 340 call center representatives had their sales record tracked for a period of 3 months. Those who were neither strong extroverts or introverts generated the most revenue, averaging $208 per hour, compared to the study average of $138 per hour. So, what do you see yourself as? And do you think one is better than the other? Let us know in the comments below. Special thanks to Audible for supporting this episode to give you a free 30-day trial at audible.com/AS.
Okay. So basically what this video shows us is a very good idea of what we have started to talk about in our unit of personalities, right? Yeah. So the revolution of the 50%. Remember that we're talking about um, the extrovert versus the introvert, so personalities. And you see on the timeline here exactly as what the video says, introvert left, extrovert right. In the middle, ambivert means that you kind of have, you're in the middle, you're like a 50-50, you're like having some of both. Yeah. Okay, please turn on your camera. Yes, Michelle, you see all of you who haven't turned on, please turn on, yeah? Yep, thank you very much. Okay, so basically in this part where we're looking at it, there were these few points. Like the first is like look at the video on the title of the unit. How do you think the young woman in the corner is feeling? Now we talked about that a little bit last week. I'd like to go. Oh yeah, and then we looked at the page 249. We did that already, right? Page 249 to kind of figure out what your personality type is. It's a very simple test, actually. Maybe not as 100% accurate, but it kind of, well, for me, it was accurate because I showed up to have like a very dominant extrovert result. But it kind of tells you who you are as a person. Now, is it important to know who you are? I think it is really handy to know who you are, since it will maybe explain the reasons why you like or dislike certain things. And that it is totally okay because introverts are as cool as extroverts are. You know, there's no either one better. So it just helps to know who we are in personality to just have different expectations. You know, if I have the expectation from an extrovert to be constantly outgoing and amongst people all the time, then I have a wrong expectation because probably that person wouldn't want to do that, right? Okay, who would want to say something about it? Like number 3, in your opinion, is introversion a positive or negative quality? Okay, I would like to respond. Okay, in that case, then let me pick, yeah? Okay, I'm gonna ask Sarah. Sarah, can you tell me what you think about number 3?
I think it's a positive quality.
Remember Peel. Explain.
Yeah. I think introvert is not a negative quality because they just need more time to social with each other.
Correct. Okay, so it's both okay, right? Can I ask Sarah, from the result of the test, which one are you?
Extrovert.
Extrovert. Okay, that's cool to know. Thank you. Okay, interesting. Yeah. Okay, for the others, please turn on your camera. There's many who didn't turn on their camera. Yeah, Fatma, Kenas, Ofi, Marcel. Yeah, Jerry, Stephen, L, Georgian. Turn on your camera, please. Livia, Clarissa, Ichaya. Arjun, Gilbert, Shani, Yusi, Esti, Sinta, Albert, Michelle, please turn on your cameras. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm gonna ask Albert. Albert, what do you think about number 3? Albert,
Yeah,
what do you think about number 3?
I agree with Sarah. Yeah, it's a positive way.
Because
Because yeah, maybe the introvert is need more time, like just what Sarah says. And I agree, totally agree.
what about you, Albert? Which one are you?
I guess I'm introvert.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, that's cool. Okay, any questions about that? If not, we're gonna continue, yeah? Okay, so I hope that you have done your what is that? Your watched the video already and did activities in your textbook. That is very imperative that you do so. So we don't have, so I don't have to repeat everything. And a lot in the video is also explained, yeah, and reviewed. For the class secretaries, please make note of who is late and absent, yeah? Okay, the vocabulary, we go into the bold-faced words. Here we have, you have to write a definition or similar expression under the sentence. So we here have, for example, thoughtful, focused, and independent are positive attributes that often describe introverts. So you're going to read and listen and then try to determine the meaning of the bold-faced words or phrases from the context of the sentence. And then you write a similar description down for it. Yes.
1.
Thoughtful, focused, and independent are positive attributes that often describe introverts.
All right. So what did we write down with number 1? Okay, let me give you an input. If I ask this one by one, it's quite long, yeah, because there's like 15. So I'm going to help you out on this part. I'm going to give you some input on this. And wait, please notice that, wait, maybe if it's possible, you can check your answers to see what you've got. And maybe if you have any questions on it, you can ask me, because basically the second activity was already the words with the definition. Here, this was an activity for you practicing to grasp meaning from the context. So basically using the words within the sentence in order to figure out what a word means without having to look it up on the dictionary. So this is basically context analysis. So we're using all the words and the punctuation that comes before the bold word and after to figure out what it means, yeah? So here we've got the word thoughtful, focused, and independent are positive attributes. So probably that refers to positive things. Attributes are actually just components, yeah? And in this case, if they're positive, then there's something that is useful, yeah, something like characteristics, yeah. Okay, number 2, according to Young, the overall life orientation of the introvert is towards the inner world of thoughts, ideas, reflections, and memories, yeah. Did you guys try to answer that? It's important to do that though. Just try to figure it out by looking at the keywords. So what you can use to do context analysis, use keywords, yeah, the text, so the surrounding text, you can look at the punctuation and the signal words to figure out. But for example, the word whereas shows a contrast, yeah? So in this case, the overall life orientation of the introvert shows the life of the person that lives it. Are there any questions about these? If not, I straight away go into activity 2, which is then related to the words, because this is basically the definition of the words that we were talking about just now in the 15 sentences, yeah? Yeah. Okay, number 1, colossal waste. Who can tell me what that is? Ah, can you guys maybe speak up without having to be told? Okay, can someone please annotate? Do I have, can class secretary of IPA 1 annotate this? Class secretary of IPA 1? Who is that? Who's class secretary of IPA 1? Hello.
Cinta kayaknya.
Michelle, okay.
Mm.
Michelle, Michelle,
Yeah,
Ipawan, can you annotate? Michelle, are you here even?
Yes.
Why don't you respond? Can you please annotate? Oh, Michelle is using phone, cannot. Amel, could you do it?
Yes, I can
Yeah?
annotate.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna look at number one, colossal waste. Would like to respond, or do I really have to mention names? Okay, then we'll start off with ST. ST number one. Okay, silence. What's number one, guys?
Is it a very innovative use? The letter F.
Yep, that's correct. Okay, we go to number two. Let me ask, let me look for name. Kenas, can you answer number two? And so say the words and the meaning. Remember, if you don't answer, you're absent, even though you're in this classroom. No answer means absent. Kenas,
Yeah, Miss.
what's number two?
Number two. Hmm, B bukan, Miss.
I asked you to read it.
Apa, Miss?
I asked you to read it.
Be prepared for.
Attributes. Number two, yeah. Attributes is
Attribute is be prepared for.
okay. Prepared for no. It is N characteristics. So attributes are characteristics. Thank you, Kenas. Please
Miss.
watch the video and do the activities in your book. Yes.
Okay,
Thank
Miss.
you. Number three, I'm gonna ask Sinta.
Yeah, Miss.
Number three.
Um,
Sinta belum buat ya. We're waiting, Sinta. What's the answer? Yes, Audrey?
Miss, boleh saya nggak, Miss? Kayak
Yep. Boleh.
yang nomor 3 ya, Miss?
Yep.
Nomor 3, yang B, Miss, be prepared for.
Be prepared for. Yeah, very good. Audrey, you raised your hand. What is that? Oh, nggak jadi lagi.
Can
Oh.
I try to answer?
Yes. Try number 4.
Mindful of is be aware of.
Yeah, very good. A, be aware of. Awesome. Number 5. Lyle?
For number 5, which is came to light, is I, which is was revealed.
Yep. Very good. Okay, number 6. Crave. Okay, just wait a sec. Whoops. Okay, so I'm gonna ask Shani first and then Clara, yeah? Shani already. Shani, would you like to answer 6?
Yes, Miss. Crave is J. Desire intensely.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Clara, number 7?
discounted is D. Dismissed part less of.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Number 8. Number 8, Arjun. Good morning, Arjun. Rio? Hello, Rio.
Yeah, Miss.
Okay, can you please answer number 8?
Number 8 to
Guys, this is taking way too long. Yes, you have to answer these things. You do your work at home, not during the lesson. This takes way too long. Andre?
Miss.
Miss. Oh, Miss.
Yeah. Oh. So on the verge of means nearly almost. Okay, then we got 9. Orientation is M. Tendency 10. Profound. Anyone? Okay, 10 is C. Deep. That is what profound is. 11. Sight. Innermost self, L. 12, put one stamp on something, is G. Adapt or make a contribution. 13, run with, is H. Execute. 14, see change, would be K. Major break with the past. And 15, whereas E, on the other hand. So that is what shows a contrast. Yeah, so 13 is H. 14 is K. 15 is E. Please check your answers, whether you've got them correct. Any questions about the vocabulary? Remember that if you want to grasp the meaning of a word from the context, you really have to closely pay notice to the surrounding text that is in it before the word or after the word. Also the punctuation and the signal words like whereas, which shows a signal of contrast, will help you to understand what a word means. Yeah. Okay, now I have to clear this, otherwise I cannot go to the next page. Okay, now previewing in the video is already explained. Very important, yeah, to understand the topic, to get the topic and understand the purpose of the audio, what it is for, which builds the focus, which then helps you, yeah, what to listen for or how to take notes. You are supposed to predict the personality traits that Kane might mention, and the reason that the bias towards these traits might be harmful. Bias is more like a judgment, yeah, something that is not objective but very subjectively stated. So anyone would like to respond to this? Like there was shyness. What else was it? But maybe I can let you listen first.
Part 1.
Your new book, Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, just launched this week, and it's getting fantastic reception. Can you summarize for us the thesis of the book and how you arrived at it?
Yeah, so the idea of the book is that we live in a culture that is biased against a constellation of traits, namely shyness, seriousness, introversion. And that this leads to a colossal waste of talent and of energy and of happiness. And that introversion really does have all kinds of attributes to it, some real surprising powers to what it means to be an introvert. And yet this is not something we're mindful of. And instead, what we do is we encourage introverts to act more like extroverts instead of acting like their best selves.
That's interesting. Can you explain for us briefly what the difference between an introvert and an extrovert is?
Yeah, good question. So introverts are people who like more quiet, less stimulating environments, whereas extroverts crave more stimulation to feel at their best. And this is an important thing to see because people often assume that being an introvert means being antisocial, but it's really not that at all. It's just differently social. So an introvert preferring less stimulation will often prefer to have a glass of wine with a close friend as opposed to going to a loud party full of strangers.
Part 2.
And you say that this part of your personality.
Okay, so from that part, we can see one is already mentioned, shyness. What was something else that you have heard? Clara, what did you hear?
I think they like quiet place and less simulating environment.
Yeah, exactly. So they're more to themselves, right? More more serious, more personal, more private. Yeah, very good. Okay, so for our previewing, basically by predicting these things helps us to focus our brain on what we're going to listen for. If you would jump into an audio straight away, you half of it you wouldn't even be registered in your brain. Okay, main ideas. We're going to look at main points. In the video, I review a lot on structure, so it is very imperative that you watch it. So here you have to listen to each part of the interview and write a statement summarizing the main idea behind each of Susan Kane's points. So what is the main idea that you're getting from this? Okay, I'm not going to let you listen to it again. That takes up a bit too much time. I only have half an hour left and we still have to do a video for today. Yeah, so okay, the first one talks about this. Now we listened to part one, right? Cultural bias towards introverts. That's what she mentioned. So a cultural subjective opinion about introverts. So what you now need to do is write a statement summarizing what she means with that. So I would like to ask Lyle, what do you think is meant by this?
I'm not sure.
What do you think? In your own words. Any idea? Want to try? So a bias is a subjective opinion. If it's a cultural bias, means it's a subjective opinion or judgment that the culture gives. Maybe because a culture, for example, in Western culture, we're very outgoing and very out there and very expressive. So for introverts, it might be hard in a Western culture because they would be, expected to be all that outgoing and that expressive, whereas maybe they're just not like that. So that might be like a subjective judgment or opinion that a culture brings with it, right? In Indonesia, a bias in our culture here is quiet. Someone talks, you listen. Someone is older, you're quiet, you listen, right? That's something that the Asian culture brings along. So maybe an extrovert might be looked upon as not so polite because you talk too much, you're too loud, you're too dominant. Whereas that is basically an extrovert side of the personality trait. So we could say about cultural bias towards introverts, for example, introverts have many surprising and valuable traits that are overlooked by culture. So just traits that introverts have that are not necessarily wrong. Yeah, they're just good traits, but overlooked by the culture. That is what it could mean. You're basically putting this into your own words, right? Yeah, you're just making summarizing the main idea behind her point. And then she says something like difference between introverts and extroverts, she mentioned. But of course, this is based on the audio, so you have to listen to it, otherwise you don't know. Just now we listened to it. The difference between introverts and extroverts. Anyone who would like to respond to that? What is the main idea of what Susan stated about the differences between introverts and extroverts? Basically, in this part of
Can I try, Miss?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the difference between introverts and extroverts, she said in the audio, introverts are more stimulated to their own world, while the extroverts are more stimulated to the outer world, to others.
Very good. Awesome. Exactly. Introverts are more quiet. Yeah, very good. So basically, when you come up with the main idea, you listen to it. They're just giving a point out here, and this is just a practice of you. Are you able to pick up the main idea of what this person is saying? And you do that in your own words, like Amel did just now, means that Amel stated the main idea of what Susan Kane stated. Doing that in her own words shows that Amal is able to paraphrase something. So that's really good. Amal, thank you. What about part two? Similarities between gender orientation and personality. Okay, let me see if I can fast forward
Part
this
1.
thing.
Your riches, that it's very profound and it affects. There's a parallel to gender. You know, I often say that the place of
Right.
introverts in our culture today is the question of what your orientation is. In general, are you oriented more towards the outer world or more towards the world of your own inner riches? That it's very profound and it affects. It affects every day-to-day interaction in your life. It affects how you like to spend your time. You know, it affects you in similar ways to the way gender does in terms of it shaping your life.
And if there really is a bias against introverts, then that's a bias against almost half our population.
Yes, yes, and this is another way in which there's a parallel to gender. You know, I often say that the place of introverts in our culture today is very similar to where women were around the 50s or the early 1960s. It was half the population. It was a piece of the population that was discounted because of something that went to the core of who they were. And I will also say it was a part of the population that was on the verge of coming into its own. And I believe that's what's happening with introverts now. I think we're at the cusp of a real sea change in the way we understand this personality type.
Part 3.
And do you think that now?
Okay, so in part two, basically the similarities between gender orientation and personality orientation. Anyone who would like to try? That one is it's a bit harder. It's stated that both the gender and personality orientation shapes our daily interactions and how we spend time together. So basically, they have like a similarity in the sense that it shapes us. It shows how we spend our time. It shows how we have interactions with people. That like in gender, people can look at, for example, oh, you're just a woman or you're just a man. In this case, it could be, well, you're an introvert, I'm an extrovert. You know what I mean? Like it kind of has this biased response or attitude, even to the point of judgment. Well, you're an introvert, you wouldn't know, or well, you're a woman, you wouldn't know. You know what I mean? So in that case, it gives a certain connection that gender orientation, or for example, personality, it shapes our daily interactions. It shows how we live basically. So an introvert is as important as an extrovert. You know, there's no either one that is better or less, or like a man and a woman. They're equally important and equally beautiful created. So it does have a connection here. Now, I'd like to ask the second one, a parallel between introversion and the condition of women in the 1950s and 1960s. It is interesting how she points that out. Does anyone want to respond to that? Try to say what the main idea is. That was a bit easier because it's a bit more clear to hear. Anyone who would like to try? How were the women from the 50s and 60s compared to introverts? Felin, I would like to hear you try.
It, it it was half of the population, or I don't know, Miss.
No? Why do you think this lady, why do you think this Susan King compares females from the 50s and 60s to introverts today? Why would she do that?
Because it's like it was half of the population of human, maybe.
Okay. That were kind of judged back in the day, or that were like thought of as not being the equal, or not being, you know, the fight for women to have an equal right. So it might in this sense be showing that females were a bit more pressured back in the day, and maybe she wants to make a comparison with introverts, that somehow introverts also feel pressured in a way, as if they have to be someone that they're not, because that is like a common exception from culture or business life, or you know, like that. And I think that expectation brings pressure. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. We go to part three.
how in workplaces and in society in general, we're mistaking the person with the loudest voice and maybe the person with charisma as a good leader?
Oh yeah, yes, we absolutely do that. And in fact, we know that extroverts are much more often groomed for leadership positions than introverts are. And this isn't to say extroverts, of course, can be wonderful leaders, but there's also interesting new research by Adam Grant out of the Wharton School showing that in certain circumstances, introverts make better leaders. And specifically, when you have employees who are really proactive and really engaged, they often do better with introverted leaders because those leaders let the proactive employees run with their ideas and implement them. Whereas an extroverted leader, almost without realizing what they're doing, maybe putting their own stamp on things and being more dominant so that the ideas of the employees may never actually come to light.
So tell me a little bit more about the sea change. How do you actually see this going into effect? What do you hope to accomplish?
Well, it's a few things. I mean, the first thing I would like to change is people's psyches. So many of the introverts who I interviewed for my book, and many of the people, they don't appear introverted, but so many of them told me about a kind of secret sense of shame that they had about who they were and how they prefer to spend their time. So the first thing that I want to see changing is people's psyches, for people to have a comfort level with who they are. But then I'd also like schools and workplaces to really rethink how they are structured and to think about meeting the needs of their introverts as well as their extroverts.
That also relates to group work and such, that some introverts in class discussions or group discussions wouldn't be as brave to speak up as extroverts would, right? Now, the difference between extroverts and introverts as leaders, who wants to try that one? What is the main idea of what she said about that? Gilbert, I'd like to hear that from you.
I'm not really sure.
So let's try.
Maybe
she said something about which one would be a better leader.
Well, she said extrovert probably would make a better leaders, but that doesn't mean introverts can't be a leader.
Okay. Thank you, Gilbert. Yeah, she did say that we are mostly so used to having extroverts to being leaders, but that introverts could even be the better leader. That's what she said. And that is why, the reason why is because introverts are calmer and would allow more space for the workers to express themselves and to try out to do their thing. So that would give space for workers to grow. Whereas extroverts are more opinionated and stronger and could then be more dominating, to which it could create for workers to have less space to grow. So actually, if you would make a conclusion out of this, if you have a group of people that are very passive, extroverts are good. And if you have a group of people that are, let's say, very extroverted themselves, it works really good with a more introverted leader. It's interesting how she explained it. Changes that Susan Kane would like to see. What are some of the changes that she wants to see? Livia, can you please answer that? Livia? No, Livia. Jerry? Jerry? Jerry not here then? Elle, can you answer that one? Changes that Susan Kane would like to see?
I'm sorry, I didn't listen to what she said, like the last part.
Yeah, you should have done it at home. That was homework, remember? Yeah, not homework, see? Self-study. I do. Okay, changes that Susan Kane would like to see is that introverts should be comfortable with who they are, and society should change to value them. and be more aware of the needs they have, like in school, education, and businesses, and making sure that they have the equal opportunities as extroverts and that they don't feel as if they have to force themselves to be someone else, and that they can be accepted for who they are. Basically that. Okay, listening to the interview again, you would have to write down true and false. For part 1, as we're going over that, we only have like 50 minutes left, so that is not so much. Part 1, part 2, and part 3, right? Okay, so for number 1, number 1 is false. Yeah, one of the attributes introverts possess is power. That is wrong. Introverts have special powers, but are not necessarily powerful. Okay. Number 2 is true. Number 3 is false. Introverts are differently social. Yeah, they are social, but differently social. It's not that they're not social, you know. Number 4 is false. Yeah, have the population is biased against introverts. It's false. The bias is against introverts, which is half the population. So the bias is not half the population. Introverts, half of the population is introverts. Okay. Number 5 is true. Number 6 is false. It says it will take a sea change for us to really understand the personality type of introversion. That is false. We are at the cusp now. That means that we are now at the point to really understand it. Number 7 is false. Kane thinks that good leaders are extroverts with charisma and loud voices. Nope, that's not what she thinks. Workplaces and societies think they are, but she does not. 8 is true. 9 is false. Kane thinks introverts should stop hiding their introversion. No. Some introverts don't hide. They just don't appear to be introverted. And number 10 is also false. She thinks that introverts should help schools and workplaces. No, society should change, not the introverts. The introverts should be able to be themselves. The society should change to accept them. That is basically the concept of these parts, yeah, of the listening comprehension. Then we came to the point of making inferences, already explained in the video, also reviewed. An educated guess about something that is not directly stated, come up with the components or facts, correlate, connect the dots, and then you can come to this underlying understanding and meaning. Yeah, so it is in reading between the lines, but in listening you can't listen between the lines. So it's really actively listen to hear what, you know, what they not really state, but you can still grasp that understanding. Okay, excerpt 1 it is. How many did we have? We have 3 excerpts, right? Okay, let's try it out. So you listen to the excerpt. Notice how Kane implies a balanced point of view. So there's a balanced point of view. She is not either for or against. Yeah, she's not biased, but she has a balanced viewpoint. Now we're going to try to hear the balanced viewpoint in the audio, okay? In this balanced definition of introversion, King corrects a common mistake with the sentence, it's really not that at all. Now, what is it what she means to say with that?
Excerpt 1.
People often assume that being an introvert means being antisocial, but it's really not that at all. It's just differently social.
Okay, so what can we infer from her balanced point of view? That what does she mean with it's not really that at all? Who'd like to respond? Is that A, B, or C? Anyone?
Is it B?
Yeah, it's B. Very good. Introverts are social, just like extroverts, but they're social in a different way. You know? Yeah. Very good. Awesome. Try number 2. Try to hear what she means, yeah?
Excerpt 2.
The place of introverts in our culture today is very similar to where women were around the 50s or the early 1960s.
Okay, so she's comparing introverts today with the place of women in the 50s and 60s. With this comparison, she intends to. What does she try to do? What is she trying to do by showing this comparison? A, B, or C? What do you guys think? Clara, what do you think?
C.
Is her talking about women?
No.
No, it's about introverts.
The B.
Then it's B, exactly. So in C, you can see that it says encourage more women to speak out, means the focus is on women. Whereas in the audio, we could hear that the focus is on introverts. Good. So it's B. Yeah, good job. Communicate the magnitude of the change in attitude towards introverts, which needs to take place. Banyak sekali yang harus masih berubah, gitu loh. Okay, we go to excerpt 3. Kane's research shows that employees work very well under both introverted but also extroverted leaders, both. She draws the comparison with qualifying phrases such as often do better and almost without realizing it. With these phrases, she tries to or she means to. Remember to underline, yeah? Annotate before you listen.
Excerpt 3.
When you have employees who are really proactive and really engaged, they often do better with introverted leaders because those leaders let the proactive employees run with their ideas and implement them. Whereas an extroverted leader, almost without realizing what they're doing, maybe putting their own stamp on things and being more dominant so that the ideas of the employees may never actually come to light.
So using often do better and almost without realizing it, with those phrases, she tries to do what? Express uncertainty, indicate that the research is not 100% clear, or present a fair picture of the difference between the two kinds of leaders.
C, Miss.
C, very good, thank you. She is showing a balanced point of view, not biased, yeah? Very good. Guys, do you have any questions about this? So that is inferring, yeah, being able to hear what is not directly stated. And in this case, we were talking about using the facts from the audio in order to find a balanced point of view, not biased. Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to expressing opinions. Yeah. In the video, I've already explained that this is super important because if you look at the cognitive levels, yeah, from understanding, and then you go all the way up to and we go to applying, and we go to analyzing, we go to evaluating, yeah. So if you go to the point of what we did just now, we were at analyzing, like really in making inferences is analysis, okay, context analysis. Now we're gonna do an evaluation. We're connecting all the dots of what we've heard throughout this lesson, and from there we're gonna come up with a judgment, a conclusion, or an idea or a reason that you have for a certain opinion. Okay, now do you agree with Kane that we need a quiet movement that is a new appreciation of the value of quieter people in the workplace and society? Do you guys agree with that there should be more understanding towards introverted people? Who would like to respond? Remember, for your response, use Peel, yeah? Speaking, that would be Arel, right? A for assertion, which is your opinion, R for reasoning, E for exemplar evidence, and L for linking back. P and Peel is used for writing. Anyone who would like to respond? L, can you please respond to this question?
Which one?
What I just said. Number 1.
Okay. Wait, let me read that again. Yeah, I think we need a quiet movement, because sometimes, like a movement can be seen as like dangerous.
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah.
This is talking about more understanding towards introverted people. Is that what you agree with? If so, yeah. Why? Why do you believe that that is important? That there's gonna come a change, yeah?
Yeah, quiet movement.
Why do you believe that it is important that we are more understanding towards introverted people? I don't hear your reasons. You're only stating your assertion, but I don't hear your reasons.
Oh, sorry,
Right?
my mute. Sorry. Uh, what was it again? Sorry.
Why do you believe that? You say you believe that we need a quiet movement. What is a quiet movement? Is that there is a change in society towards introverted people, more understanding towards introverted people. Yeah? So why is that important?
I don't know. Sorry, my mind just went blank. Uh, I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. Can I ask someone else to answer that? Lyle, what do you think? Lyle, what do you think? Lyle. Okay, anyone else who would like to respond, maybe? So much for speaking, guys.
Yes, miss.
What is that, Clara?
Yes, of course. A quiet movement is a need here because both extrovert and introvert are all human. They have the right to be treated equally and not just because some of the people back in the past believe that the extroverts are more what's the name, like more dominant and more competent at some things, that also means that introverts can be uh, discounted about it. But now we see that even even the extrovert has also have like a drawbacks or
Okay. Oh, I don't hear you anymore. But it was so good what you were saying, Clara. Yeah.
hi.
Yeah, hi.
So
Yeah, but I think
so
we got most of it. What was the last part you were saying?
so like where what's what's my last sentence that you heard?
Oh
I
boy.
don't know where it stopped.
Yeah, no, yeah. So you explained that you believe you gave an example from history, and then you came back trying giving you were kind of giving an example embedded in your reason.
Yeah, and then like my I just make it short. Okay, like so both extrovert and introvert has the plus and minus point that maybe people in the past don't see it, that we now, like what the author just said, that we need to make the changes so the society may see that introvert also has a plus point. So my opinion is the movement is a need to do.
Yeah, very good. Very good. And I hear very strong RL of assertion, reason, example, and linking. Well done. Good example. Thank you. Okay, guys, are there any questions? Because we're hitting exactly 12 o'clock right now, meaning that you're going to do the video on your own. You can do that right now after this lesson. Go to your ebook, access the link there. You know how to do that, right? You just go to the wait, you just go to the ebook, and from there you go to Unit 3, and then you will access tasks and tests, and then you see the video there. Okay, and that has to be done today, so do it straight after the lesson. Okay, and another thing is that for your Unit 3 schedule is very important because everything is put in there. So remember now, know and remember that for your Moodle, which I've already updated and edited, all the information and criteria explanation for your ebook LS, ebook RNW, and also for your log speaking test and your journal and your listening and speaking test, reading and writing test is all placed in there under the topics. Yeah, and there's also the topic for literature, which has the learning outcomes, what we're going to do in literature. And then if you want to access your ebook or your Unit 3 unit schedule, it's all on top, paling atas. And I will also place, I haven't yet, but I will place the link for your grades there also on top, so for an easy access. If it comes to extra information like links for Google Slides or summaries that I've made for you additional to your ebook, I will place those links here in this unit schedule. Yeah, so as you can see at the beginning here, not here, but here for literature. Yeah, here you have the poem and then the Google Slides. So here GS would mean Google Slides, yeah. For poetic devices, it's all in there. And then also here you see an expository essay summary. So read it because it reviews the outline for how you have to write it, and it gives you basically all the information you need to know on how to write it. And here the literary techniques and elements, very important for you also, what we're going to study for literature is in here. So remember, like last time I put that in Moodle, but some of you had a hard time accessing it. So now I place all the extra information, whether it is PPTs, Google Slides, or any other information, just as links within the schedule. Okay. So it's also kind of a push for you that you have to access the schedule. Okay, that's it. Please, as is on the lesson here, video comprehension, please do that today. If you have any questions, ask me. If you come upon a mistake, my apologies. I've tried my best. There might be some errors, maybe in my errors as a human in making the word. Please let me know so I can fix it ASAP for you. Okay? Have a great day. God bless you, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Miss Sylvie.
You're very welcome.